The crypto market's doing really well right now. We got about 50 days till the Bitcoin halving, and everything seems to be going super smooth. Lots of money's pouring into Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETFs, and we're even seeing altcoins do those 100% days. But how do we set ourselves up for some really awesome low cap investments that can do really well in 2025? Where can we put small amounts of money and make large amount of gains? I want to show you two really awesome investments that succeeded last cycle in 2021, and I think the same thing is going to happen again based on historical data and the fact that these things are essential to the infrastructure of the cryptocurrency economy. So stick with me. Let's talk about two things you should look at investing in, and maybe see if you can get a big win off of them. Before we get into the two things that you're going to want to look at to invest in, the first thing you need to do to implement this strategy is find a really awesome layer 1 or layer 2 that you believe in that will do really well in 2025. So two examples of this from last cycle in 2021. The first one's going to be Ethereum, and the second one's going to be BNB token or Binance Chain. Both of these did really well last cycle, and because of that, the tokens on top of those chains did very well, even better than the base layer token. So in our current cycle in 2024 and 2025, you're going to want to do the same thing. You're going to go out and, in order to effectively implement this strategy, find a layer 1 or even a layer 2, since those are available now, that have great fundamentals. By fundamentals, I mean an idea you believe in, a community you believe in, tokenomics you believe in, and fundamental use cases and reasons for existing that you believe in. So some stuff I believe in is like Cardano, Ergo, Alephium, Ethereum. I believe in Bitcoin, although not much is going to be built on it. But those are the types of things I believe in. I believe in cap supply. I believe in, if it's staking, I believe in non-custodial staking. I believe in governance or the potential of governance and the ability for community members to run nodes and have ideas and do these things. So I'm more into the idea of the core Bitcoin principles and how those have been adapted for newer technology. You might be more into NFTs, DeFi, and making lots of money really quick, or venture capitalists, or non-decentralized or centralized, or speed or security. Any of those things that you personally like that you think are going to do very well. I think all of the narratives are going to do really well, but some have different risks and some have different capabilities, and so it's important for you to pick something that you appreciate and enjoy for 2025. When picking this L1 or L2, you don't necessarily have to have something with a lot of history. I have some versions of this where I'm using like Ethereum and Cardano stuff with a little bit more history, and I have some versions of this where I'm using brand new L1s that have zero history except for the past year or two. So history is important, but you want to ultimately understand the fundamentals of the idea and why you think that this L1 or L2 is going to do something special in 2025. Now, you might not always be right. We can't be right every single time, but you should try and make your best educated guess. And if you really don't know where to start, just stick with something that has a lot of history, like Ethereum or, Solana or AVAX, Cardano, something in the top 20. After you have picked your L1 or your L2, your base chain that you think is going to rock 2025 and make a lot of money and be successful and onboard a lot of users, after that, the first thing you're going to want to pick out of the two options to make you very wealthy this year, the first one you're going to want to pick is a DEX on that chain. Now, the reason that we want to pick a DEX is that DEXs are fundamental to every layer 1 that has a DeFi ecosystem. Bitcoin doesn't necessarily have a DeFi ecosystem, doesn't necessarily have DEXs. XRP doesn't necessarily have a DeFi ecosystem, and it doesn't necessarily have DEXs, right? But on Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, they have big DeFi ecosystems where lots of new tokens and NFTs are created. They need DEXs, and the only way for the majority of crypto users, because we don't know how to code smart contracts and use smart contracts, is to use a DEX to trade and swap and invest. So every single L1 that has a DeFi ecosystem will have to have a working DEX that people can use. Because of that, a lot of these DEXs have a token, and you are going to want to pick a DEX that you personally believe in on the L1 or L2 that you believe in to make a small investment. The historical example of this is PancakeSwap on Binance Chain in 2021 and Uniswap on Ethereum in 2021. Everyone knows that Ethereum and BNB did very well, but if you're more into the crypto community, you might also know that Cake token, PancakeSwap's token, and Uniswap's token did incredibly well, even surpassing the Ethereum and Binance gains at one point. A lot of people are very familiar with Luke Belmar and his 10% ownership of PancakeSwap at some point. This made him like 10 or 40 million, something like that. But if you're going to want to capitalize and leverage up your gains. A way that you can do that is by not only investing on the layer 1 or layer 2, but also investing in the DEX on the chain. When you're investing into a DEX, there's going to be two scenarios that you run into. There's either going to be a ton of DEXs, so lots of competition, or there's going to be only one DEX, no other competition, and that's the only one that you can invest in. When you're in the lots of competition scenario, you want to analyze all of the competitors and pick the one that has the best combination of fundamental idea, user ability, and tokenomics for retail people. So it needs to have a lot of tokens out into the liquidity, a lot of circulating supply. It needs to have a reason for the token to have a use case. It needs to have, if you believe in open source code and decentralization, it needs to have those things, right? So when you have a lot of competition, you need to pick the one that suits you best. Again, this goes back to picking your L1, L2. You need to pick the DEX that aligns with your goals, that seems to be one of the largest ones on chain and has the best potential for success in the next run to adopt more users and get more influx of money from more people investing in their token. When you are in the no competition scenario, you really only have one choice of a DEX to invest into. When this scenario arises, you really want to put smaller amounts of money into this because it's the only DEX and there's not a lot of competition, but you also want to verify that this is a legit DEX that you want to work with and has okay and fair tokenomics and okay and fair ecosystem and okay and fair principles, right? You don't just want to, because it's the only option, invest into something that is a total ripoff, or the token doesn't do anything, or the liquidity is not released, right? And they have a lot of pressure to dump inflation on you. You want to make sure it's still a good investment, but when it's the only option, it's the only option. One way you could set your portfolio up in this scenario is if you were investing into Ethereum in 2020, preparing for the 2021 cycle, you could have put 50% of your capital into Ethereum's ETH token. Then you could have taken 25% of your capital and put it into Uniswap's Uni token, right? So you're diversifying yourself a little bit, and you propose that Uni is going to run more than Ethereum later into the cycle, or you could hold Ethereum, let it run a ton, and then before Uniswap starts to run, move all of your Ethereum into Uniswap. So some different ways to do it. I don't prefer the second way. I prefer to just build a portfolio early, like right now in 2024 or even back in 2023. Build a portfolio of, L1, L2, and then DEX token, and let them all run independently, kind of hedging each other, but also leveraging each other. Now, much like Uniswap, Aave also ran a ton and outpaced the ETH token at one point in time. But every single major L1 in 2021 had a major lending protocol that ran and did a lot of great things for its investors. Aave, just one example. Other examples are Balancer, Compounder. There's countless lending protocols that did very well last cycle, and the same thing is going to happen this cycle. And the reason for that is when you give people internet money, they need to be able to lend that money in the same way that we do today. Mortgages, houses, cars, loans, the same thing needs to happen in the decentralized or crypto ecosystem. When you're picking a lending protocol, the same thing applies as the DEX. There's going to be some chains like Ethereum that have a ton of competition. There's a ton of lending protocols that you can pick from. You just need to find the one that you agree with the most, that has fundamentally a good idea, has a ton of users, has good retail tokenomics, has a lot of liquidity released and circulating supply. All these things, they're not creating new tokens. They have good governance or good token utility. Pick one of those that shines above the rest. Put your money into it and let it run. You can put like 25% of your portfolio into it or something like that, right? But you want to pick a lending protocol that shines above the rest if there's a lot of competition. Now, if you pick an L1 or an L2 that has no competition and there's only one lending protocol, or maybe there isn't even a lending protocol yet, what you're going to want to do is either invest in that one protocol or wait for one to join the ecosystem, wait for someone to build one, and just analyze what is happening there. You can always invest just a little bit of money into it to start, and then, as they grow and as they change and as they find bugs and iterate, then you can invest more and more money. But you still want to make sure it has good, solid ideas. Is it, built by reputable people? Does it have good retail tokenomics? Does it have, good token utility? What's the use case and what is the goal and what's the fundamentals of this thing? You still want to understand what it is, but unfortunately when there's not a lot of competition, you don't have a lot of things to choose from. It's good and bad. You just need to be safe when you're having that much low liquidity and that little users. Two examples of how you can implement this strategy are if you were to go to Cardano, go to the Cardano ecosystem, you can buy the ADA token, and then on there you can pick a DEX like MinSwap or MusliSwap. Those are probably the two ones that I would look at. Muesli Swap has better retail tokenomics because they're not releasing as much liquidity, but MinSwap is a far bigger DEX. So you just need to decide which one of those floats your boat a little more. And then the lending protocol on Cardano is going to be LenFi. I own 400 LenFi token, and I think that that is going to be a great investment. They just released their version 2. So I think that the lending protocols on Cardano are going to do very well as well. A smaller version, more risky version of this is I'm also invested into the Alephium ecosystem. That is a newer layer 1, just released kind of in 2022, but I have some of the L1 token called ALF. I'm also watching the only DEX on chain called AN, and I'm considering putting a small amount of money into the AN coin for their DEX, and then they don't have a lending protocol currently, but I'm watching and waiting for a lending protocol to arise. So there's different levels and layers to do this. If you want to do a safe version, pick Ethereum or Cardano, something much bigger, and then as you get more familiar with it, you can get deeper into this idea. But as you start to understand new L1s and new L2s, and you're in the crypto game and you hear about new L1s and new L2s that pique your interest, you can repeat this process over and over. And if those new L1s or L2s don't yet have DEXs and lending protocols, you can be like a shark waiting in the shadows, understanding, hey, I want to be there when this thing releases so I can get in on the investment, especially if they release in 2024 late or in early 2025, right as the market is picking up. You want to keep your eyes open and be ready for those investments. I definitely can't promise anything, but if you watch these things, if you watch LenFi and Muesli Swap and MinSwap, and then if you go into Alephium and watch tokens like AN or other small lending protocols, or go into other small L1s and L2s and watch their DEX tokens, as long as those tokens have good baseline fundamentals that retail investors can get behind, there's a high likelihood that they will eventually outpace the gains from those L1 and L2 tokens. So if you're in the crypto game trying to find a strategy for late 2024, early 2025, I definitely look at investing in DEXs and lending protocols. They are essential to the crypto world, especially when you have DeFi ecosystems and people that want to trade tokens and trade NFTs and make money. They have to use lending protocols and they have to use DEXs. Usually they also have to use NFT marketplaces, but I don't really prefer NFT marketplaces, especially not NFT marketplace tokens. I find that they don't have a lot of utility. They're usually not great investments long term, and usually they get dumped a ton. So be careful of those, but understand how this crypto world is a lot like the modern business world. We have companies like Amazon that provide services and companies like Netflix that are built on top of Amazon AWS. So you got your L1, you got the things built on top of it. You can invest in both. You can invest in one, you can invest in the other. You just pick your strategy and do the investing how you think. Other than that, I'd love to hear which L1s or L2s that you're kind of interested in. Maybe you can share them down below. Maybe there's some small L1s or L2s you could tell us about that we can take a look at. We won't tell anyone else, so you just tell us, and we won't tell anyone else, so no one else will invest into it. But let us know in the comments any L1s or L2s that are piquing your interest so we can look at the DEXs and lending protocols on the chain. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next video.